Malakai Black might be gone from AEW. It's not really outright confirmed, yet everything is a bit cryptic and up in the air. But the word around the AEW locker room is that Malakai Black is no longer in All Elite Wrestling. So how did we get to this point? I remember when Malakai debuted for AEW just how exciting it was. How we got to a point where he's quietly departing the company years later. But you see, Malakai's Black AEW run was very chaotic, very weird, and full of drama, and to figure out how we got to this point, we're gonna go back to the start. So like the video, and let's go. So the former Aleister Black made his AEW debut on the July 7th, 2021 episode of AEW Dynamite, attacking Cody Rhodes in a shocking moment. He was now under the new persona of Malakai Black and would defeat Cody Rhodes in his debut AEW match for a huge win, which of course was then undone when Cody Rhodes beat him numerous times thereafter in classic Codyverse fashion. Then in early 2022 he'd start teaming with Brody King and eventually Buddy Matthews to form the House of Black stable, being joined by Julia Hart afterwards as well. This is the stable that Malakai has been part of ever since they formed all the way back then, with the House of Black being former AEW Trios champions, but despite that still having quite a strange and inconsistent run in AEW, more on that later. Malakai Black's AEW career has felt pretty underwhelming overall, and so news of Malakai leaving AEW isn't very surprising, and another reason why it isn't very surprising is because it's been rumored multiple times and always been kinda widely accepted that he most likely isn't gonna stay in AEW. The thing with Malakai Black's AEW run is that it's been full of constant drama over the past few years now. Matter of fact, Malakai Black has tried to leave AEW before, and this isn't the first time that there were rumors floating around he was no longer in the company. In September 2022, reports came out that Malakai Black had been granted a conditional release from AEW following a prior release request from the previous month in August, which had been denied. The conditions weren't known, but it was known that it was a heavily conditional release. At least that's what was reported. Malakai Black would then release his own statement a week or so later, where he would confirm that he did indeed request his AEW release amidst having some personal and private issues behind the scenes. He had also recently revealed he'd been dealing with a back injury for the better part of a year. Part of the statement reads, "I did indeed ask for my release. The last 2 years of my life have lended to a lot of setbacks. Both me and my wife have been affected by uncontrollable actions from the outside that resulted in loss of life, medical setbacks, career jeopardizing, the suicide of a close friend and a close family member almost losing their life, then experiencing an injury that I was sure was the end of my career. I spend every week going through several sessions of rehab, dry needling and therapy just to be able to walk and compete. Now this being the tip of the iceberg, and with the combination of the promises in my professional field that were not upheld, which resulted as a combination of all of these to a complete demoralization of life and career. This decision has been in my mind for the past 6 months." Safe to say Malakai Black was going through a lot personally and seemingly internally with the company as well. He also goes on to say in this statement that reports of there being a conditional release were false amongst other reports and rumors. Lastly, I have read a few narratives online in regards to my release, mental health and my personal life that I can summarize swiftly. If it didn't come from me, it didn't happen. Stuff about conditional releases, stuff in my marriage, or using said mental health to leverage the other, when as I said before, that part wasn't even going to be part of the public conversation, are false. Then to make matters more confusing, Malakai took to Instagram Live on September 27th to further clarify how he had actually not been released by AEW and was not departing the company, despite most reports indicating he had been conditionally released. Malakai said this was not the case and AEW had not granted him his release.
My stuff about my conditional release, that it's false. So how are you guys still thinking, why are people still writing that I've got my release? Guys, I don't know how, like, why do you trust these people to tell you the truth? None of it's confirmed. There's no confirmation because I haven't left. I'm not like, luckily I've been, and that's what this whole thing was about, I've been giving time off by Tony to take care of a bunch of stuff. All this stuff has been cleared up like weeks. weeks ago.
It was a strange scenario, but things went silent on it more or less, and Malakai Black would return a few months later, and he'd continue on in AEW like nothing ever happened. But that wouldn't stop the drama in Malakai Black's AEW career, as in the next September in 2023, a cursed month, September for Malakai Black apparently, fans noticed something weird about Malakai Black's AEW career, and that's that it had been over a full year and a half since Malakai Black had had a singles match in AEW and had only had 10 singles matches in his entire AEW career. Fans speculated that this was because of his back injury that we mentioned previously, and that he was in a trio with the House of Black to protect him and those injuries, which Malakai Black himself would then take to Instagram to refute and say this wasn't true, his back was fine now, and he had no idea why AEW wasn't booking him in singles matches, before going on to state he has other injuries too. And this trend of no singles matches for Malakai Black in AEW continued until February 2024, when Malakai was finally booked in an AEW singles match nearly 2 years since the last one. Conversations around Malakai's lack of singles matches reignited drama once again at the start of 2024 though, as on New Year's Day 2024, AEW fans were responding Malakai Black's lack of one-on-ones. Here's how many singles matches each House of Black member competed in throughout 2023. Julia Hart 14, Brody King 8, Buddy Matthews 6, Malakai Black 0. That's what happens when you refuse to take a pin or put anyone over. This reply in particular here, accusing Malakai Black of refusing to do the JOB in AEW, would prompt a response from the King of the Black Throne himself. Usually I don't reply because these laughable takes from goofballs like this nerd is why this place is the equivalent of people opening their front doors and screaming their excrement-laced opinions into the street. However, bullshit. Never happened, isn't a thing. Happy New Year. So the new narrative was that Malakai Black was difficult to work with, and that very much played into why Malakai's run had been a bust. These claims were further denied by House of Black member Brody King as well, and throughout 2024 Malakai would stay wrestling in trios and tag action with the occasional singles match, with his last AEW singles match taking place on the 6th of November Dynamite against Adam Cole, where after the match Malakai seemingly breaks character to have a moment and embrace Adam Cole after being defeated by him, leading many fans to speculate that Malakai was done with AEW and was departing the company. However, Malakai would then come out once again to say no, this isn't the case.
Match down, and again, everybody is always retiring. He's retiring because of his injuries and this and that. Well, neither of these things. I'm not injured, nor am I retiring, nor am I leaving.
And he continued wrestling as normal for AEW. What is going on? His actual last match for AEW would be later that month at Full Gear, and he's not been seen in the months since. And in those months, both Brody King and Buddy Matthews, the members of House of Black, have been encouraged to leave the House of Black in promos and forge their own paths, and after it happens the past week with Buddy Matthews on AEW Dynamite after his match with Will Ospreay, it reopens the conversation about Malakai Black's status with AEW, which takes us to where we are now, where it was revealed recently that the AEW locker room is under the belief that Malakai Black is gone from AEW, and that's the reason for these promos and this current storyline with Buddy Matthews and Brody King. And this would make sense, as it's been speculated in the past that his deal would be up in late 2024/early 2025, and of course it's been kinda known that Malakai will depart AEW once his contract expired, and there was really no chance of him ever re-signing. But even so, what a weird way to go out. Just abruptly stops appearing on TV and isn't even there to turn on or be turned on by the House of Black. Wait, that sounded wrong. They just kinda left the group on their own accord in post-match promos, and the release isn't fully confirmed though, like I said at the start of the video, and we're only going off the reports and hearsay backstage. Malakai Black is still listed on the AEW roster page to make matters even more confusing for everyone. Then again, Malakai Black's entire AEW run has been one big ball of confusion, so this is nothing new. I guess the question is, if Malakai Black is gone from AEW, then what's next for him? Well, I think the very obvious answer is that he will most certainly go back to WWE and return as Aleister Black. His wife Zelina Vega works there and returned back a few years ago after she left herself, Triple H is also in control now. When Aleister was released from WWE initially, it was a Vince decision, whereas Triple H has always been a fan of Malakai Black and booked him as a world champion in NXT. It's very likely that Aleister Black's booking in a WWE return run would be a lot stronger than Malakai Black's AEW booking. In fact, reports came out as I was writing this video that read, "There are influential people in WWE who are big fans of Malakai Black and see him as a possible top singles act in the company," which makes sense and sounds about right. Triple H, like we said, as we know, is a big fan of Malakai Black. But this same report also weirdly delves into the alleged issues with his AEW career, stating, "Some people backstage in AEW were reportedly frustrated with Malakai Black. This was reportedly due to the perception that he was reluctant to do jobs for other talents and frequent claims of injury issues." Alongside this, it was said he had never developed a rapport with Tony Khan. Malakai Black also reportedly told people within AEW over the last couple of years that he was burnt out from wrestling and had considered potentially retiring. It's weird that this is all resurfacing today as if it's something new when this was all discussed and debunked years ago, as we talked about in this video by Malakai himself. Regardless of the weirdness of Malakai's AEW run, there were some cool moments, like winning the Trios title, and the TNT title match with Cope was awesome as well. But overall, it does kind of feel like nearly 5 years got kind of wasted, especially with how exciting it was and how buzzing everyone was when he made his debut for AEW attacking Cody Rhodes. It felt huge. What a letdown, man. Malakai Black definitely does not go down as an AEW success story, and in the future I'll definitely be doing a video looking deeper into his AEW run and what actually went wrong booking wise and what he was doing on TV and all that jazz, the downfall of Malakai Black's AEW career essentially. But guys, that's it from me on this video here. If you did enjoy it, then smash a like button and leave a comment down below your thoughts on the entire Malakai Black AEW situation, and if you'd like to see Aleister Black come back to the WWE. Subscribe with notifications on if you're new so you never miss a video. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye and keep on rolling.